Mr. President of the Republic, Ali Bongo Ondimba.
Monsieur le Président Paul Kagame.
Dear Mr. President Paul Kagame, dear Presidents, dear Mr. Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen and ministers representatives from neighboring and friendly friends, as well as dear guests. It is the third consecutive year now that we are holding up this challenge, basically, of organizing the third edition of the New York Economic Forum Africa. I would like to seize this opportunity to thank, of course, all the participants in the forum, but also those who contribute to its organization, and generally speaking, to all of the people who trusted us for that initiative. That covers more than 100 different media coming from abroad and local participants. The quality of this participation rate, in fact, and allow me to turn to Mr. President Paul Kagame. Paul, my brother, thank you so much for coming here. And I would also like to thank all our friends coming from the European continents as well as the Asian and American ones, of course. So on behalf of the Gabonese people, through my own voice, I would like to thank you all warmly. But I would also like to thank you on behalf of the African youth, which was given the floor this morning in this very venue. Thank you for contributing to our common will to transform the African continent, which illustrates the topic or theme we retained for this year's edition. The African continent really needs to undergo and succeed its mutation. It is of critical and paramount importance for our common success. And the organization of this New York Economic Forum can be summarized in a way by the existential question of knowing whether we should be or not be, basically. React by anticipating rather than just follow and react by being subjected to a sort of passive fate. So the whole point is to embark upon an African adventure which will have doted itself with all relevant means in order to face the future challenges it may be confronted to. Therefore, it should dote itself with a more performing human resources capital. It should also make sure that it will have succeeded in changing the mindset, as my predecessor would have said, to decolonize the mentalities, in other words, but also by making sure that we've transformed the capacities to match our development need. We therefore need to master technologies and know-hows in order to make sure that raw materials can be transformed on the African soil and can create the desired added value. To integrate the African economy, we need, of course, massive investments, but also common will to make sure that the energy, infrastructure, and transport fields and sectors will follow on all of these objectives, as Paul Kagame so well emphasized earlier on. And that only will ensure and guarantee to us peace and security on the African continent. We heard this morning our sister, Catherine Samba-Ponza, summarize the situation in Africa, Central Africa rather, and telling us how peace was an irreplaceable precious good, needed, of course, in order to ensure sustainable and harmonious development in our respective countries, in order to promote some real, true partnerships based on clear commitments assumed by all the stakeholders and participants, as our French, British, and German partners truthfully reminded us this morning, we need to promote this governance style that will contribute to the emergence of credible institutions, reliable and solid ones, where everyone will fully assume their responsibilities. Political leaders, company CEOs, and civil society, as well as youth, should all feel concerned and involve themselves in this process. Ladies and gentlemen, all of these ambitious goals that I reminded you of are the prerequisites for a perfectly intelligible Africa that will guarantee its neighbors a sustainable and promising management of its natural resources and of its own economic fate in the redistribution of the ensuing growth and wealth. But such a more articulate and intelligible Africa should also become more visible and transparent in its will to assume its own development and share its experiences. So you'll gather that basically this is the meaning that we attribute to the organization of similar events throughout the whole continent in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, such a global consistency is a warrant for the sustainability of our reforms and the answers needed for a proper transformation of the African continent. So throughout the coming 3 days, as you've already begun to experience this morning, you will see that a number of diagnoses and synergies will be spelled out in order to make sure that our mentalities can be properly transformed, but also our economies and our environments. This being said, ladies and gentlemen, I declare this third edition of the New York Economic Forum for Africa open, and I wish a lot of success to all of your respective works. Thank you very much for your attention.